Hey everyone, so my name is Milena and today I'm recording a video here with two of my friends. I am from Brazil, so South America, and then I have Sana.
I'm from Dubai, the Middle East.
And I'm Ife.
I'm from Nigeria, West Africa.
And we're just gonna be having a fun little conversation here, talking a little bit about our culture and family traditions and just the culture exchange of studying abroad. So to start off, I just wanted to quickly go over family traditions back home. So what would you say is one of the main family traditions for you in your culture?
So for me, every year during the month of Ramadan, which we're going through right now, when it's time to break your fast for iftar, my entire family gathers and we have food, and usually we pack food for our neighbors. So it's kind of like a time for everybody to kind of like unite. And being here away from my family, I kind of have to experience that alone. So I have a lot of traditions back home that I really miss, and it kind of shows you what you kind of take for granted.
Wow. What about you?
I would say for us, it's more like about the weddings. We love to party. If you know any Nigerian, we love to throw weddings. We have about 3 weddings every single time someone is getting married. It's traditional. You see people vibing. We get to wear our attire. We're just having fun. And the best part, we're spraying money. So I think that's my favorite part, collecting free money at weddings, at traditional weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think in Brazil we are very family oriented. I see some connections of where you're talking about, like family breakfasting and all. I mean, obviously we don't go through Ramadan, but every day we tend to have dinner together. Even for lunch, I know a lot of people, they would literally like go home and have lunch with their family because they have about an hour. So we are very family oriented, but that's the main tradition that comes to my mind. But I have other questions here for them. So my next question actually is going to be about... Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about cultural shock. Obviously, we're all here now in the United States, living abroad. And as we said, we have some family traditions, we have things that we grew up with, and a lot of those things change when you get here and you're like, whoa, what's going on? So what is the most bizarre cultural shock you experienced when you first landed in the country?
I think for me it was, this sounds really lame, but filling your own gas. So back home, there's always somebody doing it for you. And America is such a self-service country, which is something that I've learned. It's the complete opposite of Dubai. You always have people doing certain things or like certain jobs that you wouldn't find here. And I would say that's also a benefit because it did teach me to be a lot more independent. And I've learned a lot of things that I would not be able to learn if I studied back home.
That is true though. In Brazil we also have people that fill up your gas, so it is a little odd, but yeah. Ami, what is?
I would say mine is the greeting. Back home is very like common for us to like go on our knees and we're greeting like adults and older people. But coming here, I'm struggling with that because every time I see an older person, I'm like putting my head down and look so awkward because they're like, what the hell is she doing? And I have to be like, oh shit, I can't be doing that. People here find it so weird. But I realize like here, like there's a difference in how you see your elders. There's not much of like seniority kind of, or like feeling like, oh, you're older than me. That is not there. It's like we're practically on the same level kind of vibe. But back home when you see an elderly person,
for us too.
you know,
not dictating, but
you know how to act.
Yeah, I would say a shock for me. I mean, it's not bizarre. I mean, actually, it may be a little. It's that people here start driving at 16, so like teenagers on the road. And not gonna lie, I've been always jealous about that. Like growing up, I'm like, I wish I was in America so I could be driving myself places. But at the same time, what makes it bizarre to me is the fact that you can start driving at 16, which honestly, you put in a lot of people at risk if you have a teenager just acting stupid. But on the other hand, you cannot go into a club until you're 21. So that is just a little odd to me because back home, you can drive and go to the club at 18. So there's no in between. So for me, it's like, well, you're giving someone the chance to drive. They can speed, they can run someone over, crash into a house. I don't know. Like some stupid shit can happen driving. But you can't let them into a club. So it's like, oh, okay.
Says a lot.
It does. All right, so for the next question here, did you ever find yourself in a hilarious situation because of language barrier?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I kind of spoke the language before I came here because it's mandatory for us back home to learn English from like kindergarten. So I never really. But one thing I did experience is that I noticed after coming here that a lot of the words that I say, I pronounce them a little differently than people here would. So I've had situations where people would laugh or like kind of correct me about it, which I didn't even know that I was saying it wrong. But there wasn't much of a language barrier for me personally.
No, any funny situation?
No.
Wow, lucky you.
I would say mine is we speak English, like that's our main language. So I would say it's more about like we speak English in my country, it's more about my accent. So the moment I start talking a Nigerian accent, usually people will mimic me like, did you say that? Ah, wow. Those little things. But there's not much of a barrier except when people want to pronounce my name. I think I've had to shorten my name every single time I've worked somewhere because people will be like, Ami, Feoloa, and I'm not going to repeat my name like 16 times before you get it. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, none of you said a funny situation. I guess your English was pretty good. Mine was, hey. Okay, I think mine was decent, but I still had words that like you don't use often. So when I tried saying it, I just said some dumb shit. One time, I was trying to say lettuce. So I don't like veggies, and I was trying to order something, and I wanted to take the veggies out, and I said like no tomatoes, and then I said no lettuce. And my boyfriend was looking at me, and the waiter was looking at me, and I said lettuce. I showed the menu, and they're like, lettuce. And honestly, I was like, well, maybe I should have a little bit of French to me, like lettuce. I don't know, but I had situations like that, like with words that you don't use often. That I don't know, I just read completely different in my head, like just whole different thing. But yeah, that is a funny story I have myself. But now let's talk a little bit about stereotype. I know that being in a different country, it is something that will happen regardless. It's not something directed to the US. That will happen anywhere you go, to be honest. People do have stereotypes. Have you ever had a situation that someone was clearly having some sort of stereotype about your culture, where you come from, and like it just ended up building like an awkward situation, or like how did you handle it?
I mean, I don't know if this fits the question, but I've had this told to me before. Every time someone finds out that I'm Muslim, they always go like, oh, why don't you have that thing in your head? Or why don't you wear that little dress over your head and stuff like that? So I think, I mean, that would fit whatever you would.
Yeah. That is there is a stereotype.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one of those things that you have to kind of explain to people that not everybody who practices Islam chooses to wear the hijab. It's called a hijab. Not many people knew it, so they would just call it scarf. But yeah, that is one of many that I can think of.
I would say mine is more of like huts. I don't know if people think Africa looks like, I think people are watching like National Geo Go Wide or something, but a lot of people just think we have huts. And when people ask me that question, I first think they're joking, but they actually mean like, oh, do you see lions when you wake up in the morning? I don't understand what I look like, Tarzan. Like the thing is actually, I'm sorry, but it's so ridiculous. Please go and check Google. We have cities, you know, like it's kind of crazy. And I don't hunt either. That's just wild.
No, I relate to that because I feel like when people think of Brazil, they think of three main things. They think of soccer, carnival. So when they think of carnival, they also think of girls with not a lot of clothes doing samba and shaking ass and stuff. And then they think of Amazon rainforest. So anytime I meet someone, they ask me, have you ever been to the Amazon rainforest? And I'm like, dude, I wish, to be honest. But it's like
just walking in the forest.
You know, it's literally like across the country from me, you know, like on the complete opposite side. So it would take a while for me to get there, and not a lot of people go really into the Amazon rainforest. I mean, they have like some trips that you can take there, but I had never done it, to be honest. But it's just funny to me how everybody asks me about it, or like they ask me like, do you see monkeys in the street? And it's funny that they ask that. It's a little random, but at the same time, my answer is actually yes. Just because we have these tiny little monkeys that we call seguin. They're almost like our version of squirrels. Like they are everywhere. So yes, I've seen them. But it's just funny because most of the time when they're asking, they're like talking about like big monkeys. You know, I'm like, not really. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I live next to the beach and they just assume I'm like next to the forest seeing lions or something like that. I don't know. Do you have water? Do you have Wi-Fi? I mean, yeah. But yeah.
I would like to add to that. A lot of people think because I'm from Dubai, I come from oil money. That's another stereotype.
Doesn't she?
They immediately assume they immediately assume that I'm rich and my family owns companies of oil. But yeah, that is not true. What's true? Next question.
I guess. Who will listen to our humble, you know? That's fine. Just to finalize this video, I just wanted to ask you one quick question here. If you were able to give yourself an advice, so looking back when you first came here as an international student, what would that be? What would be your advice to your younger self?
I think mine would be, when I first came, I was not living on campus. So I was a freshman. I came during COVID year and I was living off campus. And it was a really stressful time for me because I was in a whole new country and half of my classes were online, so I didn't even get to engage. But in some of the classes where I did have to go in person, I think I was so used to being like isolated that I didn't put myself out there at all. It was not until the end of my sophomore year that I started actually getting the college experience everybody was talking about. So the advice that I would give myself is basically just to put myself out there, you know, and realize that a lot of people, especially the freshmen who are like me, you know, they felt the same type of anxiety and they basically had the same experiences as I did. So yeah, I would basically just do more.
Preach. Because that's literally that would be my answer. Like I also lived off campus first year and I was pretty much just focused on like going to class and out of class, going back home and just doing my homework and getting over with the day and just keep on that. Never really engaged a lot. I tried, but to be honest, I'd be like, it's so late to go to this event and this and that. And once I realized the opportunities I was missing, like the friendships that I could have been building at that time, I'm like, wow, I really messed up, you know? So I started like trying to be more engaged and just talking to people and getting a little bit away from like my shy side, you know, like trying to just straight up go to people, start talking, make some random conversations, and that's how you build great friendships like this, you know? See? But yeah,
I would say mine is the opposite. I did get to like live on campus my first year. Like I didn't even experience that campus life because I think I didn't want to even be here. I felt like distant away from home. So it was one of those things where I was like, I don't want to know anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I have my friends back home. Why do I need to make new connections? And I think I limited myself because I could have done so much more from freshman year, but I was like, I don't like any of these people. I want to just go back home and be with my friends because I feel like it was such a huge adjustment. But I would tell my younger self, like, don't limit yourself. Get to know other people because now I have amazing friends regardless and I still have my friends back home. Don't feel like you can't explore more because you're so connected to home. You can make a new home regardless of wherever you are. Your home is yourself. Your home are the people you make home. Like, if I'm just being honest. So don't limit yourself, guys. Period.
yeah, it is true. Sometimes you just gotta push yourself out of your comfort zone and you discover great things that you wouldn't have before. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you Ami and Sana for participating. And if you guys have any other questions about living abroad, being an international student, you can always reach out to me on my social media.